Hello there, everybody. I hope you're all having a good evening so far, and that you're all as excited as I am for this magnificent event that we're all going to experience in a few moments. I also want to say I hope my fellow MBAs are feeling a little better today than we did yesterday. I know I can say I definitely am. My name is Devin Kelsey, and I'm here to welcome you all to Talk to Him, in which our very own George Hayward is about to treat us to not simply a great night of motivational comedy, but also a night I expect will be commonly referenced when we reminisce about our time together here at Stanford. Because remember the time that the law school and business school all got together to watch George do comedy will surely be a question we all hear more than once over the next few years. I truly do expect this to be a memorable night. I'm so excited to see so many people here in the audience tonight, and I think I can speak for George and the rest of the team that worked to make this night possible when I say how much we all appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to come here and be with us tonight. I know most of you probably recognize how important this night is to George, but I think it's worth explicitly pointing out how happy George will be when he looks out in the audience tonight and sees each one of your faces out there. So thank you. I'm going to candidly admit here, I don't know much more about this event than any of you do. It was a couple of weeks ago that George first asked me if I'd be willing to introduce him for his comedy event, and I, of course, told him I'd be honored to do something like that for him. He didn't make it abundantly clear what introducing him should entail, but he did note that I should let everybody know where the fire exits and restrooms are. So looking around, I seem to see exit signs around there, and for the law students who might not know, the restrooms are out that door and around the corner. I'm not sure how serious he was being when he said that, but I thought I'd let you know just in case. It was a few days after agreeing to introduce George when I first saw posters hanging all around Highland Hall. Saying that soon the MBA 1 introducer for Talk to Him will be announced. It was then that I realized that I had no idea what the fuck I had signed up for. I was picturing something quite similar to GSB Talk introductions, but I know some people actually asked me if I was going to be doing a comedy set as an opener. After chatting with George, he actually told me he was open to me doing whatever I wanted to do up here, and that if I wanted to do some comedy to get the crowd warmed up, I was welcome to do so. As much fun as trying to do stand-up for the first time in my life in front of my entire school might be, I didn't say yes to introducing George because I wanted to try my hand at comedy tonight. I said yes to him because he is one of the single best people I've met during my time here at Stanford, and I want to make abundantly clear to all of you, in case you don't already know, just how incredible of a person George is. One of the first times I met George was week 0 of classes here at the GSB. MBA 1s will be familiar with this odd game we played. I'm not sure what it was supposed to teach us, but to describe it a bit to the law students, we have this somewhat peculiar exercise during week 0 where we trade these little colored chips to each other to accumulate points, and the people with the most points at the end win Stanford mugs. Our section, Section 3, decided to consolidate our chips behind the 2 people who were already in the lead, with the agreement from them that they would win the mugs and then lottery them off amongst all the people in the section. It seemed to many like the fairest approach to the game. George was one of the 2 initially in the lead, and so we consolidated behind him, and he ultimately did receive a mug. But then, instead of giving the mug away in a lottery, he stopped and addressed our section. He explained that the only reason he was one of the 2 people initially in the lead was because somebody else in the section had given him their chips to start with. So instead of giving the mug away with a lottery, George wanted to know if it was all right for him to give the mug to the person who'd paid him this act of kindness at the very beginning of the game. It was entirely unexpected, one of the most genuinely human moments I've experienced so far here at this school, and an act that immediately demonstrated to me the type of person George Hayward is. I was lucky enough to be assigned to a squad with George this year, which meant that I spent an awful lot of time learning from and with him last quarter. And any member of Squad 28 could as easily have been up here tonight with Jeff, Kate, Jenny, Jennifer, and Petch, we're all sitting right here in the front, would likely say many of the same things as I will. The first time our squad met up, we had a tight schedule, but George got to talking about his life and his love of music and so much else during the meeting, and our squad was so fascinated by him and everything he was saying that we let him go on for about a half hour before our squad fellow Petch finally tried to bring us back to the agenda. And I jokingly suggested a motion of forgetting about everything else and just listening to George talk about anything he wanted to talk about for the rest of the meeting. If listening to him today is half as interesting as that day was, we are all in for an incredible night. But that's how listening to George often is. I'll admit something. I don't agree with George on quite a few things. We don't always see eye to eye on the best path forward when we're working on projects together, and he often comfortably states positions that I fundamentally disagree with. But more than anything, I love listening to him talk. I have never met anybody else who can as easily make me feel like I just became smarter just from having heard them talk. Whether I agree or disagree with whatever George says, I always feel like my understanding is enhanced by having heard from him. And that is not something I say lightly. George speaks with such raw intelligence and confidence, but also an emotional awareness and kindness that I could listen to him talk about just about anything for hours. I know an introduction like this might normally be filled with exaggerated flattery, so it's worth pointing out that I've said this next thing to many people in our class before. I really do believe that George might be the single smartest person at the GSB. But it's his genuineness, combined with his phenomenally good nature and unshakable belief in what he thinks is right, that makes him stand out to so many in the class. He's a character. His style is so unique that I've never met anybody even close to like him. It makes it difficult to explain what it is that's so appealing about him, because anybody who hasn't met him simply doesn't have a reference point to even begin to understand what makes him so fascinating. Over winter break, I literally spent an hour trying to explain to my dad who George is and why he's the most fascinating person at the GSB. But it's difficult for that to come across to anybody without meeting him. For our squad photo, we all dressed up as George, wearing suit coats and large headphones. To everybody who doesn't know George, this choice probably seemed peculiar. To us, it was a natural choice. George Hayward was obviously our squad's spirit animal. Or as George himself said, while he was freestyling for us, which was incredible, he's our squad papa. When George and I competed in the executive challenge this year, we were preparing together, and George was trying to talk through to himself how he should change his style when we presented to the judges. The one thing I asked of him was for him to not try to manufacture a self that wasn't natural to who he is. All I wanted was for him to be unapologetically George Hayward, and all the magnificent and astounding and sometimes peculiar things that entails. George's style may be unique, but I really believe it works for him because it's so genuine to who he is. And during Executive Challenge, when he said the quote, "If you don't believe in the cloud, it's going to rain on you," it was one of the funniest things ever. I have no idea what sort of incredible things George is going to do in his life, but I honestly think that whatever he does, we'll all someday be name-dropping how we used to go to school with him. I am so blessed to have George as a friend, and I could not be more honored to introduce him to you tonight. So without any further ado, I present to you the man of the hour, George John Jordan Thomas Aquinas Hayward.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Now that was a great hug. That was a great hug. I'm supposed to say right now that Devin was too kind, but I'm not going to say that because after last week's midterms, I need every bit of this. To the professors who are grading my exam, what he said, thank you. By the way, I hope you guys are taking pictures because we got to send these home to my main girl. That's Jennifer Jordan. That's Jennifer Jordan Hayward, age 68. It's my mother. She worries about me. Let her know I have some friends. I hope, thank you. I hope you guys are taking pictures because we got to send them home to my 4th grade class. 1998, St. Pius X School, Catholic school, Scarsdale, New York. Let them know that George Hayward has finally made it to the cool kids table. 19 years too late, but we're gonna count it. Fantastic, fantastic. And we have packed C-Mix. They said it could not be done. Thank you for coming. But we didn't just pack C-Mix. We also have my erstwhile roommate, Dennis Shrive in the house. Fantastic. Now, the law students might remember from last year at the Good News, Big D couldn't make it because he had a hockey game. So I said, somebody text him. 45 of you did, and now Big D has decided to show up. Fantastic. Fantastic. I also would like to announce the winner of the 2017 Talk to 'Em Comedy Show Gala Auction. There was one bidder, it's a lone bidder. I'm so happy with him. That winner was myself. So the bidding did not go exactly as I anticipated to go, but that said, it is nice to finally win something at this school. I will say that. By the way, finally we have the JDs and the MBAs. We got the MBAs and the JDs. I will say this, folks. I expect an equity position in all the startups that get founded tonight because these student loans are not going to pay themselves unless we elect Bernie Sanders. Fantastic. I got to give it up to a couple thank yous. That's what my notes say to say. Do some thank yous now. I got to give it up to the woman with the plan, Miss Lauren Jackson. We wouldn't be here without Miss Lauren Jackson. Get to know Miss Lauren Jackson. I got to give it up. I got to give it up for my marketing people. Can we give it up for the SLS marketing people, Amari, Hammonds, and Alexandria, Gilbert? Give it up. Give it up. Fantastic. Let's give it up for the GSB marketing team, the dynamic duo, the roommates, Dan Wu and Dana Hou. Give it up. Give it up. Thank you. Thank you. Fantastic. I hope y'all didn't think I forgot about Margo Watson. Give it up for Margo Watson. She has been helping us do the philanthropy for this. We're raising money. We're raising awareness for a very good organization called the Cara Grief Support Group. If you're feeling sad, go talk to them. Can I say that? Thank you. Also, if you're watching this video online, there is a link to donate right below this box. That is a comment for the web viewers. There is not literally a link. You think you would know that, but I get a lot of questions about these kind of things. Now, let me see if my advertising worked. Do we have the law school in the house? Let me hear it. Fantastic. 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 Do we have the business school in the house? Let me hear it. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Do we have the divinity school in the house? Trick question. There is no divinity school. You guys are on fire. You guys are on fire. My goodness. Good evening. Now, some of you may know me from the Highland Hall coffee machine where I do my networking. And some of you may know me from the Highland Hall laundry room where I spend my Friday nights and more recently also Saturday nights. These clothes are not going to wash themselves. Some of you may know me from accelerated accounting where I routinely decelerate the class. I'm going to pause for a second. If you are in Accounting 213 with Ron Kaznak, you are welcome. Because when it came to the curb, I was the rising tide that lifts all boats. I will say that. You are welcome. You are welcome. In the law school, some of you may know me because I was the one to give the 1Ls the good news. Didn't we? Wasn't that fun? That was fun. We had a nice time with that. That was very fun. But if you don't know me from all those places, you might know me from a website I like to call Facebook.com. First of all, I'm the one who likes all my own Facebook posts. I consider it a great defeat if someone beats me to it, which made me very upset yesterday when Colin Scott from the law school beat me to my own Facebook post and liked it first. I have yet to forgive myself for that. Now, in the business school, some of you guys might remember, I was that guy who wrote that post on that controversial subject at the beginning of the year and added footnotes. They didn't think I was going to survive that. I will say that. And you might remember me, if not from there, from that seat over there, second row, 3 over the side, where I had what I like to call my cordial conversation with the dean. Thank you. The conversation that will prevent me from making the dean's list. That's a joke. It's accounting that will prevent me from making the dean's list. I will say that. So. Fantastic. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't thank 2 more people. I got to thank Mary Zhao. Give it up for Mary Zhao. She has been with me since day one. She believes in me. There's only two types of people in this world, those that know Mary Zhao and those that are missing out. Get to know Mary Zhao. I hope you didn't think I forgot about Adam Allcock. I said if I do nothing else in this comedy show, I will introduce you to the physical presence of Adam Allcock. Nothing else. That's my man right there. That's my roommate right there. I'll say this. If you're trying to start a startup and you haven't gotten Adam Allcock on your board, you're doing it wrong. You are doing it wrong. We didn't do this comedy show without Adam Allcock. Adam is one of the smartest people that I know. He's so smart. He's a walking encyclopedia. Every time I ask him a question, he knows the answer. I've met a lot of smart people, but I've met no one like Adam Allcock. And so I tell him all the time, I said, Adam, I know a lot of people who are well endowed intellectually, but they ain't Allcock. Only Adam is. Get your minds out the gutter. Let me slide that point on in a little further. People say to me, they say, why do you and Adam room together? I said, we're very similar. We're very similar. I said, because between the two of us, there ain't no half-stepping. I said, we are so thorough. In other words, Adam, tell him every day, Adam, you ain't some, you ain't partial, you Allcock. And that is the kind of commitment we need in this country to get things done. I want someone who just, yes. Now, I understand there's a question in the audience. I see this. You guys are wondering, why would I do this show at 8 p.m. even though that is rush hour on OkCupid? Now, thank you for that question. I'm so glad you are concerned about my dating life, as is my mother. Thank you for that. You know, if I knew it was going to be this difficult to source dates at the GSB, I didn't just join the School of Engineering where they have all the fun. Either that, or I would have remembered to go to my own date auction at the Movember fundraiser. Do you guys remember that? But I've got a message for the ladies. Let me get ready here. Ladies, yes. Ladies. The dish walk with George Hayward is still on. I am very, very available. Can't do it right now. Because I'm on stage, but afterwards, you will know where to find me. But don't worry, Adam is running my OkCupid account in the background. Adam, swipe right every time. We'll never know unless we swipe right. We'll figure out later. But my mom is always on my case about this. I called her up last week on Friday. I said, Mom, how you doing? She's like, George, this is a Friday. I said, yeah. She said, shouldn't you be talking to a girl right now? I said, what do you think this is? She's like, I don't know. I just think if you get on the apps, you meet your girl, teach you how to. I said, we don't talk about this. I couldn't believe it, but that's so awkward. But it's not as awkward as what she did to me 10 years ago, 2007. High school, senior year, I'm sitting in my room, the phone is buzzing, I pick up, it's my mother. She said, George, do you have a prom date? I said, prom date? Prom date? What about the last 4 years would lead this woman to believe I would have secured a prom date? She said, so that means no prom date. She's like, well, you better get one. I said, hold on, girl. Right now, we're in a quadrant I like to call the quadrant of improbability. We are asymptotically approaching the axis of impossibility. And what that means is that there will be no prom date. She said, you better get one or I'm not coming to graduation. I said, you can't miss graduation. I'm going to win the debate award, the culmination of my life. You got to be there for that. She hung up the phone on me. And I think the JDs, the MBAs, the undergrads who snuck in, they're gonna back me up on this. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. I will say that. So it looks like yours truly has to find a prom date. So I did all I could do. I said, where are the women? Don't know where the women are, but we got to find them. And so I said I did the only thing I could do. So I called every girl in my advanced math calculus class. Didn't have the cell phone number, didn't have the game for that. So just did the phone book, went to the parent. I said, hey, Miss Johnson, are you available? I'd like to speak to Carrie. Carrie comes to the phone. I say, Carrie, what is the page of the chain rule homework? She's like, George, it's page 64. I told you 6 times today. I said, thank you. Now, Carrie, are you free on Saturday? She's like, but George, that is literally prom. I said, exactly. I'm asking you to prom. So that did not work, but I called again and again and again, and your man got himself a prom date. Yes, he did. Yes, I did. And if she's watching right now, I've got 2 words for her. Thank you. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I walked around and said, this guy's got a prom date. This guy's got a prom date. It was good. Didn't get to first base. Almost knocked her over a few times, but it was a lot of fun. I'm glad my mom made me do that. Now, before I address the MBAs, there are 2 important things that I have to get off my chest. I got to discuss it with the group. Mary Zhao said I could. She said I could. And I got to get my 2 things out of the way. I got you all gathered together. Did you hear that a man going by the name of Donald J. Trump was elected president? You heard about this? If you haven't heard about this, it's been widely covered in the smartphones. You see this thing everywhere. And that's right, he's the president of the United States. The man who tried to copyright literally the phrase, you're fired, is now the job's president. And this hurt me so much, but not for the reason you might be thinking. Because I had the information that could have stopped this whole thing, and I'm not talking about those Russian phone calls. I'm saying I could have stopped it, but I didn't feel so bad about that. Would you like to know how I could have stopped this whole thing? Yes! I could have saved the whole world. I feel so bad about this because I knew how to do it. Because I should have just called Hillary up. I should have done this. I would have called her up. I'd just get on the phone, Madam Secretary. I'd have told her, if you really want to hide those emails, why don't you just post them on Canvas? I'll take that. They'll never be found there. They'll never be found there. Last week I was trying to find my seed project on Canvas. You guys are not going to believe this. But this actually is the God's honest truth. I could not find my homework, but I did find Bigfoot. That's right, Sasquatch. That's right, the abominable snowman. He'd been on Canvas the whole time. I said, what are you doing there, Bigfoot? He's like, I'm just chilling. I said, do you know where my homework is? He said, George, I'm just a mythical creature. I can't handle that. I can see it right now. FBI Director James Comey go to Congress. He say, FBI Director James Comey go to Congress and he say, Senator, I have commissioned 60 physicists, 20 anthropologists, 10 MBAs, 5 JDs, and we have canvassed canvas, if you will. 60 days and 61 nights. And I've come to one conclusion. Senator be like, please proceed. Comey be like, the conclusion is that life is too short for canvas. Let it go. Thank you. By the way, the real joke is that campaign still thinks they lost because of the Comey letter. I can't believe it. Of all the reasons, that's the letter. So I asked the campaign, I say, how do you know the Comey letter end of the campaign, well, the analytics moved a lot in the first one, and they moved even more in the second one. I said, really? The analytics moved? Are those the same analytics that told you not to go to Wisconsin? Because if they are, I don't know if you could trust them. Mary's out said, it's in the past, I gotta move on. Mary's out said, move on. But I'm an optimist, and so there are other things that are good. I said, you know what? You might have heard that there is a certain quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not talking about Blaine Gabbert. I'm talking about Colin Kaepernick, and he said he doesn't have a reason to vote. And so I said, well, at least we have now provided Colin with a reason to vote. So Colin, if you are watching, I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2018 in the Santa Clara poll elections if you are still playing for the 49ers. Now, I said I have two things I have to get off the chest. The second one is the big question that everybody wants to know. Everybody asks me this. Every day I get asked this 3 or 4 times on the East Coast, the West Coast, all the coasts. They ask me the same question. They want to know, why do I wear these headphones all the time? Now, when I was on the East Coast, I would just tell them they were earmuffs with an audio capability, but it's too moderate temperature-wise out here, so no one believes that. So I just finally had to say, I was going to have to finally tell people why I wear those headphones. I just got to be honest, get everyone together. I wear those headphones because they're my cold call defense shield. That's how I do it. Because if you know me, you know I sit in the front row of every class. And if you ever see me there with my headphones on, that means I'm not open for business. I haven't done the reading. I'm not answering the question. If you call on me, you are going to get a Biggie verse. And just last month, there was a GSB professor who stepped to me. I could not believe this. We were doing a widget analysis. He called the class. He said, what market should the widget go into? It looked like a mannequin challenge. Nobody was moving. I knew he was going to come to me. But I got my headphones on. He must understand. He said, George, where'd the widget go? I said, George, where'd the widget go? He's not getting the point. So he said, George, where'd the widget go? I said, birthdays was the worst days. Now we drink champagne when we thirsty. That's why I said that. He didn't get it. He didn't get it. So I said, there's going to be a lot of slow singing and flower bringing if my burger Laura alarm starts ringing, baby, baby. That's what I said. He still didn't get it. So I said, I love it when you cold call me Big Papa. And after I was kicked out of the class, I no longer had to deal with the cold call. And by the way, I'm just going to say, California people, just because I say Biggie is the greatest rapper of all time, it does not mean I don't like Tupac. I just got to say that. Greatest rapper is Biggie, but you still got love for Tupac. And I get so much love for Biggie that at least until someone disproves me, I'm going to keep on saying this. I'm the only one here who has the Notorious B.I.G. on my resume in the interest section. You could check me in the resume, but that's there. And this has led to a number of difficult situations. It has. The law students will appreciate this. I was at a very prestigious, very fancy law firm in San Francisco. Very old partner walks in. He says, George, transcript looks fine. The references are good. But who is this notorious big guy? And I said, oh, that's Christopher George Latour Wallace. It's a big rapper of mine. And so he said, oh, I'm glad you listed it because we like cultural diversity at our firm. I said that's awkward, but if I knew where we're going today, I'd have looked at that and be like, that's a good thing, not an awkward thing. But that put me in a tremendous ethical dilemma. This is way more difficult than the GSB ethics of the business school, law school ethics. This was a real ethical dilemma. Because he proceeded, he was like, Georgia. He's excited now that he knows this new thing. So he's like, I am on the summer committee. And you look like you're a hard worker, but at our firm, which is name redacted, we like to have fun. And we think it would be great if, when the next time Big goes to the Bay Area, maybe we could send some summers to see a concert. What do you think? So this was very difficult for me. Because on the one side, I wanted that job, but on the other side, Biggie is dead. And if I don't tell him about this, he is going to lose a lot of credibility with that summer committee. He's gonna lose a lot of credibility with his 6-year-old when he comes home. He's gonna be like, this is, I got this big guy we're gonna go see when he comes to Oracle. She's gonna be like, Dad, Biggie's dead. So that's why I had to tell him. I said, sir, that would not be a good idea because Biggie is dead. Didn't get the job, but I kept my dignity. That's what Jennifer told me to do with my mother. She said, keep your dignity even if you gotta say Biggie's dead. So that's why I listened. I listened to her. And so now it is time for me to address the MBAs. Thank you. Law students, I will be coming back to you, so you sit tight. Sit tight. You got business to handle right now. Said this show was talk to him, I'm gonna talk to him. So, what you gotta know about me is I was actually admitted to GSB in 2011, it's a very long deferral. And the first time, I think I'm the only person to come here with their GMAT deactivated because it passed the 5-year mark. That's actually not even a joke, that's the truth. Yeah, so basically, I actually was on this campus in 2014, back when there was no water, back before the MBA 2s were even here. And I said, I'm gonna go check out these business school people. We gotta see these people. And I remember I left the library, I said, goodbye, law students, I'm gonna go check them out. I did a flyby, I went right through Arbuckle, I came back. Law students were like, what are these MBAs like? I said, they are the most beautiful people you have ever seen. I said, I'm gonna have to start using that facial cream. Of course, that was before I learned the clone stamp in Photoshop. That's what I do now. People say, George, do you Photoshop your profile pictures? Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not looking at that again. Take that right out. No excuse. You got Photoshop now. So basically, the PC is going to come get me for that. You self-esteem. Yeah, okay. It's a joke. Okay, it's a joke. So that was enough for the first year. So the second year, I came back. I said, let me go to an actual meeting. And there was in the GSB Bowl, which is not an actual bowl. It is a geographical depression, very counterintuitive. But I went over there to a real estate club meeting, and there was a student who is name redacted. He said, I never seen you here before. I said, well, that's because I'm at the law school. He said, oh, are you going to be one of those lawyers? And I said, well, you got to pass the bar, take a few classes, survive ethics, survive evidence, but that's the plan. He said, well, I'll have you know, I have hired many attorneys at my previous job. And I said, oh, really? Well, you can't afford me. Unless you pay me in fried chicken, in which case my rates are very negotiable. But he wasn't done. He's like, why do you lawyers have your big books, the leather whip, the big books? I said, what, are we supposed to sue you with a travel brochure? What I should have said was, because we found with people whose head is as dense as yours, throwing anything lighter would not make the point. Would not make the point. But you can imagine my excitement when finally in 2016, I made it to the GSB. I'm so excited, and week 0 hits, and it was time for the norms discussion. I was so excited about this. We're gonna talk about innovation. We're gonna talk about job creation. Talk about change and community. I'm very excited. So you can imagine my surprise. Professor rolls up. You can't make this up, folks. Professor rolls up, it's even on the projector thing. He says, the norm is, set this up, the class goes for like an hour and a half. He says, the norm is, can't make this up, you can't go to the bathroom in my class because that can be planned. Now, with some of the food they got around here, I will guarantee you, not every time will it be planned. And if a student is in that situation, we got to get them out of there so they don't compromise the learning environment. But thank you. All right. But I'm a rule follower from the law school, so I want to follow these norms, and this led to one of literally the most difficult, embarrassing, awkward conversations I've ever had, because I called up a local porta potty company and they couldn't believe it. They said, where do you want that porta potty? I said, that's right, in the classroom. That's what the man says. And I don't want it anywhere in the classroom. I want it right in the front row next to where I sit. Let that teacher know. That's a man who follows the rules. And if I ever disagree with the teacher, get up, walk around the front row into the bathroom, let him know what I think. Let him know what I think. I said, $100,000 a year can't go to the bathroom. I said, $100,000 a year. 80% spent on printing, can't go to the bathroom. I said, you could be in jail, let you go to the bathroom. I said, you could be at a zoo, let you go to the bathroom. I said, you could be at a nonstop flight from Tokyo to New York, and they let you go to the bathroom. In fact, they encourage you. Stretch your legs. $100,000 a year can't go to the bathroom. I said, what are these students supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go to splash water on their face to wake up from that boring lecture? What are we supposed to do? Dump Gatorade on them like they do at the Super Bowl? We can't do that when they fall asleep. That will create a mess, and I don't think the staff should have to clean that up. That's how I stand. That's how I stand. I haven't paid this much to be this stressed since I had knee surgery back in 2006. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. Man, and that's the point. Business school's stressful. The law school people were like, oh, when you go over there, it's going to be fun. It's going to be low stress. But as President Trump would say, wrong! Shoot. When I came over here, law students. Do you know how when we want to look up a study guide, it's in the SLADA database? And how you typically look up that outline before you even take the class? Okay. So walk on over here to the business school. Over here, they ban study guides. Half the classes, if you use a study guide, that's an academic code violation. If you want to get a study guide in half the classes at the business school, you got to buy it on the black market. I was in one of the sketchiest parts of campus the other day. I saw some MBAs in the corner. I said, what are you guys doing? They said, shut up, nerd. You know what we're doing. I said, no, I really don't. They say, we're trying to hustle study guides. I said, you can't do that. You don't know where it's been. You don't know the purity. Those balance sheets might not balance. I want my kids making their study guides in the privacy of our own home. Thank you very much. But I want to make a point. I do agree with the administration on their ban for study guides in some classes, because the saying goes, if you want to teach collaboration, you force the students to work individually. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. That's how you do it, people. Thank you. Besides, if we did allow study guides in business school, the kids might learn all the material. We can't have that. We can't have that, because if we had that, who would we give the low passes to? George Hayward can't have all the low passes. We gotta spread some of it around. Do you know they still do low passes? So the law school got off this years ago. Law school, there is no low pass. We're like the only school that has low passes now. And what does a low pass mean? What does a low pass mean when the average GMAT score is a 737? Is that a GMAT score, or is it, as I suspect, a Boeing airplane? Because if it is a Boeing airplane, why are we stopping at 737? We got to push that to 747. Nothing says a global brand more than a Boeing 747 for your GMAT score. That's what I want. The kids will be coming. What does a low pass mean when you accept 6% of the kids who apply? What do you give the 6 out of 100 who get in? I have a suggestion. You give them a round of applause. Thank you. You give them a massage with a happy ending. Or was that phone? You give them 2 free tickets to Hamilton. You do not give them a low pass. I may be discombobulated, disaggregated, and disappointing, but I'm not a low anything. We need to tell these deans what the meaning of low is because they forgot and somebody got to talk to them. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No more low passes. Now, law students have come back. So your typical 1L class, con law, torts, contracts, Civ Pro. When you got that gunner in the section, when they talk a lot, what is their participation credit? Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Is it 0%? It's 0%. You mean to say that all the lawyers who talk so much and debate so much do 0% participation credit? In fact, it's like a common law school knowledge that the person who never talks is the one who gets the book prize. That's like basic. So you can imagine my surprise when I came over here to the business school where they have a points scoring system for every comment you make. That's right. I'm not making this up. A TA says you get a 1, a 2, or a 3 when you make a comment. I said that's discrimination against me because all my points are worth 10. Where are the rest of my points? Where are the rest of my points? I said, when I first heard this, I said, those better be exponents. Those better be exponents. They're not. They ain't. In fact, one professor said, you can't make this up. This is actually what he said. He said that if you make a particularly poor comment, he will deduct a point. Negative participation credit, which flies in the face of our mandatory attendance policy, also something the law school does not have, because what he is basically saying is that if you overslept the class, you'd have done better considering that comment. It's a conflict of interest, folks. My goodness gracious. It is stressful out here. It is stressful. Okay. But just for this joke. Now, so basically, it's also stressful because of the language we use in the business school. Sometimes it's zero sum. I'll always remember this. It was right in this room and we were beginning leadership labs. Now, law students, you might be wondering, what are the leadership labs? And as soon as you know, you tell me. As soon as you find out. One day I'm gonna figure it out though. And ask the article people. But the teacher come on this stage right here, and she said, quote, "I'm sorry, I understand some of you were upset because you were unsuccessful in the personal leadership coach lottery." I said, that's right. Ain't that a you-know-what? You commanded 3 platoons in Iraq. You've had 24 patents. You've got 6 Rhodes scholarships, but you were unsuccessful in the leadership coach lottery. Furthermore, if you have figured out how to be successful in a lottery, talk to me after the show, because we got a Powerball ticket in New York. As long as we're not going to pay himself, people. It's stressful, but we can't only just talk about administration stuff. Also, I find some of the stuff that we do can be very stressful. I'll never forget this. I woke up one morning, I woke up into heaven, because I walked out of my room and there was food everywhere. I didn't know there was going to be this much food. I got 1 plate, I got 2 plates, I got 3 plates, and they were like, stop eating, George. So I stopped. It turned out it was the International Food Festival at the GSB. And so I'm just eating the food off the 3rd plate, which is like in my elbow. Student hands me a blue sticker. I said, can I eat this? What is this? She's like, no, George, you put that over there. I said, what? Where'd I put this? And they're like, no, you vote. I said, what? I said, it's a good thing I'm not allowed to cook. It's a good thing I'm not allowed to cook. Why am I not allowed to cook? You microwave 1 Wendy's cheeseburger with the tinfoil on and no one lets you in the kitchen again. But if I could cook, I go to my go-to dish, a Hot Pocket, not a regular Hot Pocket, one with like a meatballs and like a complicated Hot Pocket, not some chump. And if you would take my Hot Pocket after I made it, and it was free, and I served you, and you didn't vote me number one, I'm taking it back. I always got room for another Hot Pocket. It's stressful. It's stressful. And if we're going to talk about food, let's talk about let's talk about feedback. Have you heard that feedback is a gift? Have you heard that? Feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift. In law school, the most feedback you get on a 20-page exam is like a scribble, and that subject doesn't agree with that verb, P. See the good news. Here, we get feedback all the time. Feedback is a gift. Feedback is a gift. It's a gift I don't want. Take that gift back to the store. Return it. It's not so much the positive feedback I have an issue with. That I can handle. It's that negative feedback that really gets me going. I had a friend who definitely is not me, who gave his girlfriend some feedback 2 weeks ago, and I had to spend last night making him a new Bumble profile. That's what the feedback got him. I'll say that. I will say that. But I've got a solution. It's my new startup. It's already in Y Combinator, as everything a startup needs to do. It's got a bunch of rock stars. The employees were all birds. It's also a unicorn. It's featured in TechCrunch. Am I missing anything? It's disruptive. It's got a mean sales funnel. SWOT analysis abounds. Beer in the lobby. We got everything. The motto is simple, folks. It's called George Hayward receives your feedback. Hopefully, this goes better than the hedge fund that I started, which I call George Hayward lowercase. Who knew that a hedge fund built on relative modesty had no place in the market? But I will say this. I was the E.E. Cummings of finance, and that counts for something. Now, back to the future. The premise under George Hayward receives your feedback is very simple. Basically, when you have a 360 review, you get the good feedback, and when the boss is going to give you the bad feedback, and by the way, the boss can be man or female, and when the boss gives you the bad feedback, you call me in. And we demoed this a couple weeks ago, very successful. So the boss comes in, and he's like, Jim, you're not diligent, you're good, or he's like, Jim, you're good, you're diligent, and now it's time for the negative feedback. And he said, pause, boss, George Hayward will take that. And that's when I came in. I got to do my job. So I rolled up in there, sat down. Boss was like, okay, this is weird, but okay. So he says, well, Jim, doesn't do good work. I said, thank you, complaint listened to. Now I got some feedback for you, sir. I'm going to present it to you in 3 parts. Number 1, those clothes you are wearing are not fashionable. Anyone who told you they were deceived you. Number 1. I said, number 2, there's no easy way to say this, but you would be a prime candidate for teeth whitening. No easy way to say it. I know a place, I got a coupon, I'll give it to you. And I said number 3, everyone knows you dye your hair. Just wear it the way it is. It's all you can be, it's all you're gonna be. What's he gonna say? He is gonna be upset about me for giving the same feedback. I say, give the feedback if you can take the feedback. So that's my point. And I mean, but the feedback is tricky. I was unemployed. I was essentially broke back in the earlier part of 2014. I made a website to try to make some money. It didn't really make me a lot of money, but haywardediting.com, make this website, get this person who emails me. He wants to get coffee. So we get coffee, and at the end of it, he starts giving me like 4 pieces of completely unsolicited negative feedback. Just hit me. Boom, boom. He made me say something I haven't had to say in 5 years. And Mary's out told me I could say it. He made me say the Lord's Prayer remix. You might be wondering what that is. I'll show you. It goes like this. Dear Lord, I know you said, Lord, to love everybody. But when you said that, did you also mean him? Because, Lord, this is a piece of work. My hand is raised above my head. Stay my hand, because it is raised to slap this fool. But with your help, Lord, I'll put it away. Amen. He made me say the Lord's Prayer remix. Of course, that's not as stressful as consulting interviews. You knew I was going to talk about that. This applies to both the law school and the business school. I remember I had a consulting interview, and I don't want to give away the name of the firm, so we'll call it McKinsey. And at this firm, they said, okay, how's your resume? Fine. How's your transcript? Fine. It's time for the case question. How many ping pong balls can fit in a Boeing 777? Well, I read case in point. I said, I can handle this. So I said, okay, we'll put 100,000 in one wing, 100,000 in the other wing, it's 200K. 100,000 in the fuselage is 300K. 50,000 in the cockpit, that's 350K. 350,000 ping pong balls, final answer. He's like, no, completely wrong. I was like, how is that wrong or right? How is that wrong or right? Well, you forgot the luggage compartment. I said, they forget the luggage. I can't be blamed for this. I can't be blamed for this. Man, so I didn't get that job. I'm walking around upset. I was like, no, I can't find employment because I can't count the ping pong balls in the airplane. I'm not smart enough because I can't count the ping pong balls in the airplane. And that's when it hit me. I said, if you do know the number of ping pong balls in an airplane, you've got the problem, bud, not me. You've got the problem, bud. You're missing out on a lot of life there. It was just Valentine's Day. I could see the man's significant other calls him up, hey, baby, you want to come over? Crack open a bottle of wine, cuddle up, and watch George Hayward's Good News? No, honey. Dreamliner came out. Gotta update the model. I don't get that. So I said, never again. So the next firm, again, I want to conceal identity, so I call it Pain. Same song and dance, resume fine, transcript fine, case question. And this time they said, how many cell phones are there in India? Said, Jim, I'm glad you asked me that question. There are too many cell phones in India. Too many. You gotta lower that number. Worried about the cost, worried about the environment, worried about the kid's vision. Want to join your consulting firm to fix that. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say. That is not to imply I got a job at Bain Consulting. I decidedly did not. And because I'm talking about that, I just broke the fourth wall. And because I just referenced the fourth wall, I broke the fifth wall. And that's not a joke, that's a milestone. Mary's how we did it. The fifth wall's been broken, I just want that done. Gotta put something on the resume. Of course, consulting interviews might be my least favorite, but there's one question in other interviews that they are still asking, and they've got to stop asking this. It's my least favorite question of all time. What are your weaknesses? If I wanted to tell you my weaknesses, I would go to a therapist. This is an interview. I'm telling you how great I am. I'm telling you how great I am. I remember a law firm tried this stunt on me. Name redacted. Two partners came in. They said, George, what is your greatest weakness? And I said, I won't give you one, I'll give you three. I actually said this. They didn't know what to do. A little smile of triumph came on their face because they were like, oh, we got this one. This naive law student doesn't know. So I said my three weaknesses are brownies, gummy bears, and cookies, but it's got to be the chewy kind because life is too hard for the hard cookies. I got that job. I did. That worked. But we got to stop this. As George Hayward receives your feedback, the first candidate who answers that question honestly, we might have to give him the job. Person says, well, my greatest weakness actually, ma'am, is I'm late to everything. The only reason I'm at this interview on time is because I thought it was an hour earlier. Imagine my surprise. It turns out I'm early. At least you know. By the way, that actually happened to me once. I'm going to cut from the script a little bit. I was still trying to find a job. I was in Manhattan at the time. I missed time the trains, as I always do, taking the G train, my own train, down to Brooklyn. I show up for a 3 o'clock interview at like 3:45. We're running up the stairs. I'm very worried. This is not going to go well. Got myself to blame. So mad at myself. You should have you did this wrong, George. There's no one you can blame. No way you can twist it. So I said well, you know what I'll do? It's not a good situation, but I'll just tell them I thought it was at like 4. And then, it's awkward, but what else am I going to say? And I'll never forget this. So I'm going up the stairs, and it was at that moment that it hit me. I was interviewing, this is a true story, I was interviewing to be the head scheduler at a city council person. Suffice to say, I did not get that job. Or maybe someone could just be like, I've got an anger management problem. After 3 p.m. I slap people, but I'm working on it. I've got an odor problem. I don't take showers very much, I'm working on it. Sometimes I get in the elevator, someone faints, I'm working on it. Or my personal favorite, I don't have attention to detail. It's something I do not have. If the email didn't have a typo, I didn't write it. Or maybe deadlines. I don't believe in them. I want to keep the client guessing. Don't think I'm too desperate for the business. So, those would be some real weaknesses. They're not great, but at least you know what you're getting, right? So, of course, with interviews, I've always gotten into trouble. I remember, there was a guy in college called Brian Dunmire, and I got to college in freshman year, and he was like, do not take Mandarin Chinese. That's the one class you can't take, you're not going to do well, you don't do languages, don't take Mandarin Chinese. I took it, or rather, it took me. I would just say it went boo-how. Wa shui zhengwen zai hafo da shui. Wa shui han zhengwen dan shi zhengwen bu shi han wa. And what that basically means is I got 2 C's in Chinese. Every single interview is on me about these 2 C's. The first interview, the interview should have been called How Long Before We Find George's C's in Chinese? They just love to poke you with everything. So basically, it would be like going well, and they would say, yeah, but George, what about these the 2 C's in Chinese? And I would say, well, Chinese is hard. And they'd be like, so is our job, out. Same song and dance the next time. But this time I said I'll use a different excuse. I'll say, there were some sandbaggers in that Chinese class. They were not all intermediate. We had to learn how to say that R sound. Everyone knew. And I knew I was sunk at that point. Oh, do you think life's fair? Out. And I was like, you know what? If I'm never going to get a job ever because of these 2 Chinese C's, I might as well have some fun with it. So I remember I went to one interview. This is where my whole life changed. I realized the secret of life is this interview. It's a true story. And interviewer comes up, and I said, I'd be a good fit for your place. And she was like, what makes you so sure that you're a good fit? Why are you such a great candidate? And I said, pull out my transcript, please. She takes it out. Say 2 lines down, 3 to the right, look at the left. She's like, these are 2 C's in Chinese. I said, those 2 C's stand for courage, because I should have failed that class. Best grade on my transcript. Best grade. I got that job. You gotta kind of twist the premise a little bit. Of course, that isn't as awkward as my interview with the doctor, my pediatrician, Dr. Bomback. Because socially, at that age, I mean, some kids say they're on first base. You heard this? Some kids say they're on second base. Some kids say they make it to third base. And I used to say that my car broke down on the way to the stadium before cell phones. So I remember I was 16 with my pediatrician. And Bomback comes up to me and says, George, it's time for an awkward question. And I was like, oh, man. He says, George, are you sexually active? And I said, well, there's this girl called Haley. Her name is made up, just so you know. Things were, going places, and no. He's like, you'll get them next year. So I was 17 years old, I go back in there. He says, it's time for that awkward question. I said, oh, is it the testicle exam? He's like, nope, that's next. No, George, I'm gonna ask, are you sexually active? Oh, shit. I was like, well, this time, Haley, I was getting the number, and things getting kind of, no. You could say I had a long, nonstop flight on Virgin America. But we landed that plane. Almost missed the runway. Didn't quite get down, but the plane was down. We counted. But I came here to talk to you guys. I came here to talk about something. This is where I say to Mary Zhao, do we have Ramsey Lewis? Is that still something that we have? Fantastic. Thank you. The song that you are listening to right now is played by the great jazz pianist, Ramsey Lewis. And I chose this song, it's called Merry Christmas Baby, because like Ramsey Lewis, I derive a lot of inspiration from the black church. If you ever want to get over something, nobody knows it like the black church does, I will say that. And for people who get up and they tell jokes, a lot of times you're familiar with some of the sadder things in life. And I'm no different. But in the deepest, darkest places, even the faintest light shines relentlessly. And sometimes that can be a joke. It can. And so, in my household, we used to have a saying for those dark times. And we said, have faith because the Lord always delivers. They used to tell me, they said, your destiny did not get lost in the mail. Said it did not get sent to the wrong address. It said it did not get delayed. In fact, the Lord is never late because he always on time. And the Lord is never wrong because he always correct. And unlike the United States Postal Service, the Lord also delivers on Sunday. Yes, he does. Thank you, Jesus. So I came here to talk to him. Because at Stanford and many other places, we've got something called the duck syndrome. And what that means is that a student is looking okay above the surface, but below the surface, things are not so good. But the Stanford football team has a saying when they play Oregon, I'm sorry, Phil Knight. They say they're going to pluck the duck. That's what they say. And that is what I came here to do, to talk to you people. Sorry, Peter. But we are going to pluck this duck. And how are we going to do it? is I'm going to go through some of my biggest rejections, and your man's still standing. The first time I was rejected, I applied to a fancy school called Horace Mann in New York. I was 9 years old. They turned me down. It hurt so much. I was crying. It took it so personal. But my mom said, the Lord gonna deliver. And we keep on applying. And when I first applied to Harvard early, they pushed me away. I told my mother about that. She started to cry. And no man likes to see his mother cry, we'll say that. But we said the Lord always deliver. Keep on applying. Eventually I got in. And when I got in, turned down from every final club, almost every social organization. Lampoon turned me down because I wasn't funny enough. I never understood that. 100 pounds overweight. And I felt sort of sad about that. But you know what I said. I said the Lord always delivers. Never did get in those clubs. But I did get that girlfriend. And she was a big deal at that school. And I shouldn't say this, but she graduated from this very business school a couple years ago. I'll let y'all figure that out. Oh, I'm gonna hear from her now. No, I'm not. She can act like she's never seen this. Text me 3 weeks later, I know how it goes. Talk to her. But brace yourselves, because there are hard times. It's true, my father died. And people who go through that, I know it's a comedy show, but that kind of pain ain't no joke. But you gotta understand that we just said the Lord gonna deliver. And there's no clear way to say it. But I say I don't have a dad on earth, but I got a lawyer up in heaven. We call that man all the time. In other words, the last time I wore this tie was at his funeral. And now I wear the same tie and tell the Allcock joke. That's how you know the Lord always delivers. Thank you. So I figured we had enough rejection there. I applied to jobs. Almost all the jobs turned me down. Even the job I took at Morgan Stanley, they turned me down the first cycle, had to apply to a different division, same time. But your man got the job. What I'm saying here is that each of you has a destiny, and if you focus on everyone else's destiny, you are going to be upset. But if you focus on your own, you can be resilient. And I got one more for you before I'm out of here. Because a couple years ago, I applied to a school I like to call the Harvard Business School. Have you heard of it? Is that place still operational? And they turned me down. Can you believe it? Oh, and they gave me a phone number to call. Find out why you didn't get in. Oh, I wish I didn't call that number. I wish I did not call that number. Of course I call that number. You're vulnerable. You want the feedback. They said why you're not going to change the world, why you're not good enough, why you're not mature enough, why you won't get it done. Oh, I felt so low after everything I've been through. But you know what I said. I said, the Lord going to deliver. They're going to hear from me again. They must not know about me. Applied 6 months later, same resume, same recommendation, same essay, basically same scores, and this time your man got in. And that'll tell you everything you need to know about that process. But what stage am I standing on? The Stanford Graduate School of Business, the Stanford Law School, the school that never turned me down. And I know I'm in the right place, because if I weren't here, I would have met none of you, and I like y'all. And that's how I know the Lord always delivers. Thank you. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Mary Zhao. I want to thank Josh Dos Santos. I want to thank God, my mom. My name is George, John, Jordan, Thomas, Aquinas, Hayward. I take jokes seriously. And that is how you talk to them. Thank you.
Allow me to lace these lyrical douches in your bushes. Who rock grooves and make moves with all the mommies. The back of the club, sipping my wet is where you find me.